We're going to start Chapter 4, Graphing and Linear Equations. I need you to write this down in your graphing notebook. We're going to use that for the whole chapter because we're going to be doing a lot of graphing. We're going to start with Section 1, which is linear equations. So what is a linear equation? When the equation is graphed, a straight line is made. So for example, y equals 3x plus 2 is a linear equation. If I graph it in a coordinate plane, I will get a straight line. The points along this line are solutions to the equation, and we write those as ordered pairs x and y. So if I know that x is the horizontal axis, y is the vertical, I remember y to the sky, I know that x and that y can be substituted in for my equation, and they are solutions to the equation. A coordinate plane is just a fancy way of saying graphing. I have an example to show when you might use a linear equation. Let's say you had a water tank and there was a hole in it. And you could then use your linear equation to predict when your water tank would be empty. You're not going to write this down, but this shows you what the first step is in solving our linear equation. And again, I'm going to go step by step. Just watch the video. I will tell you when to write down the next set of notes. So we're going to use this table to help us to organize all the information to make our graph. So my table has in it, first column is x, second column is the linear equation, third one is the y, and we're going to solve for y, and then our last column are our x and y coordinates. What we do is we select a negative number or a couple of negatives, 0, and positive numbers that correspond with our negatives. Then you use those numbers, you substitute them in for the x, you can solve for y, and then you have your x and y points to plot on your graph. I now need you to copy down the steps for graphing linear equations. Step 1, you're going to make that table like I just showed you with your x in the first column, your equation in the second, y in the third, and your xy in the fourth. Most of the time you're going to use positive and negative numbers and 0 as your values to make your graph, except when graphing equations that have no negative values, such as, I showed you the water tank example. Well, we can't have negative time, therefore we wouldn't use negative numbers. Step 2, for each of those x values, we're going to solve for y, and then we're going to plot those ordered pairs on graph in for our linear equation, and then we're going to draw a straight line through all of the points using a ruler. You must use a ruler. If you don't have one, I need you to get one. So here's our first example. We're going to graph y equals 1/2 x minus 3. So I'm going to take you step by step. Step 1, we make our table. So here's our table with our x, our equation, our y, and our xy. I've selected -2, 0, and 2 as my numbers. So that's our first step. Okay, the second step, for each of those x values, we're going to solve the equation for y. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we know, here's our equation. So I'm going to substitute in for the x. So I have 1/2, -2 is my x, minus 3. So I know that 1/2 of -2 is -1, and -1 minus 3 is -4. So I'm going to now write them as xy coordinates. My x I chose was a -2, and my y that I just solved for is a -4. We solve for the next one. We have 1/2 times 0 minus 3. 1/2 of 0 is still 0. My y therefore is -3. Write them down as 0, -3. My last one, I have 1/2 of 2 minus 3. 1/2 of 2 is 1. 1 minus 3 gives me -2. So I'll have the points 2 and -2. Next, we're going to need to graph those points in the coordinate plane. So on my graph paper, I'm going to make my coordinate plane, and then I need to graph those points. So we have, these are positive numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Opposite is negative, -1, -2, -3, -4. Going up on the y, so that was my x. Going up on my y is 1, 2, 3, 4. Going down on the y is -1, -2, -3, -4. So now I need to plot those points that I just calculated. Okay, so I need to plot those points. My first one was -2 and -4, which is right here. Then I have 0 and -3, which is right there. And then I have 2 and -2, which is right there. So that's the next step, plot the ordered pairs. Then I want to draw a straight line through those points. So now that's my linear equation. So sometimes we might be graphing a slightly different linear equation. So what if y equals b? And b could be any number on the coordinate plane. So if I graphed that, here's my coordinate plane, here's my x, here's my y. So let's say y equals 2. So I go up to 2, and y can only be 2. So that means any place along here, negative or positive, y can only be 2. X can vary. X can be any different number, but y can only be 2. Therefore, I create a horizontal line passing through that point of 2. What if x equals a number? So let's draw a coordinate plane again. I'll try to keep on the lines this time. Here's my x, here's my y. Let's say x is -3. So I go to where -3 is on my x. So that means no matter what, x can only be -3. Y can be many different numbers. I can have many different y's. But x has to stay at -3. Therefore, I've created a vertical line along that point. So here's another example of those horizontal and vertical lines. So what if y is 4? So that's my x, that's my y. So y can only be 4. No matter what, y is 4. So I create a horizontal line. What if x equals -1? I can draw that. Here's my coordinate plane. There's x, there's y. X can only be -1. So no matter what, x is -1. Again, y can vary. I can have all these different y values, but x has to stay on the -1 line. Now I'm going to have you do some problems on your own. So remember the steps. So if you can't remember the steps, go back and look at your notes. So the first thing is to make your chart. You want to fill in all the numbers and plot the points. So I'm going to start the first one for you. I've labeled them A, B, C, and D. So the first thing, we make our chart. It's not a graph yet. In the first column, we're going to write x. Second column, we put in our equation. Third column, we put in the y. And in the last column, we write them as x and y coordinates. I'm going to select 3 numbers. So let's take -2, 0, and +2. You're going to plug those in. Oops, sorry, I put those in the wrong spot, didn't I? So we'll put them there. Let me erase these for you. Okay, now we're going to solve our equation. So if y equals 3x, this is 3 times -2, which gives us -6. So our points are -2 and -6. So maybe finish filling in this chart. Then you're going to make your graph. So you're going to plot it on a coordinate plane. Using a ruler, you're going to have some straight lines. So I'm going to have you do A, B, C, and D. And that's all we're going to do for today. Tomorrow during class, we'll do some more practice problems. Again, if you have questions, write them on the side so that we can go over them tomorrow during class.